They wanted to drive the Jews into the sea and get rid of every single Jew in the Middle East. Israel tried repeating. The only reason the Palestinians lost in 67 and they lost Gaza and the West Bank is because they preempted an attack against Israel. And over again, Israel reached out to them to make peace with them. In 2000, Ehud Barak offered them 97% of the territories back, and they refused it again and again and again.
Hello everyone, Insightful Nomad here. In this video, I want to show you an amazing clip of the one and only Brigitte Gabriel. If you don't know who she is a Maronite Christian woman from Lebanon. She grew up in Lebanon and escaped the war and the persecution by the radical Islamists in that country to Israel. She escaped from Lebanon to Israel, and then from Israel, she immigrated to the United States. And she is a very outspoken defender of Israel and critic of the radical jihadists who destroyed her homeland, Lebanon. Hear what she has to say in this clip with Piers against the Hamas and terror supporter, the rapper, supposed activist, Low Key.
Well, I want to start with the accusation of the occupation. Israel was minding its own business ever since it existed. It reached out to the Arabic world. It wanted to have peace with the Arabic world. In 1964, when the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, was founded, the West Bank was in the hands of Jordan. It was Jordan. And Gaza was in the hands of Egypt. It was Egypt. So the PLO was founded in 1964, not because of any occupation. They wanted to drive the Jews into the sea and get rid of every single Jew in the Middle East. Israel tried repeating. The only reason the Palestinians lost in 67 and they lost Gaza and the West Bank is because they preempted an attack against Israel. And over again, Israel reached out to them to make peace with them. In 2000, Ehud Barak offered them 97% of the territories back, and they refused it again and again and again. In 2005, when Israel withdrew out of Gaza, they said, okay, we're going to give you your own state. We're going to give you your own territory. Israel forcibly removed its own people fighting the IDF by force, removed them out of Gaza. Not only to remove the people, they dug out dead Jews' bones from the cemeteries because they knew exactly what the Palestinians are going to do to the cemeteries. So in 2005, when Israel withdrew out of Gaza, there wasn't one Jew alive or dead in Gaza. They turned over the key to them and said, okay, great, now build your own place. You are independent. I know people that Israel even left them the greenhouses. Israel was exporting 50 million flowers to Europe in 2004 out of Gaza. The greenhouses, the fruits, the vegetables, the flowers. They left them to the Palestinians so the Palestinians can start they can have an industry where they can support themselves. I know a businessman from New York who even raised $14 million to make sure the Palestinians will be able to get paid salaries as they move over and they continue building the greenhouses. And what did the Palestinians do within 24 hours after Israel withdrew? Not only they destroyed every single Jewish synagogue in the area, they destroyed the greenhouses, ripped out the pipe, and even stole the copper out of the pipe. And then they had an election. So in their first election, the first woman elected to the cabinet of Hamas was a woman by the name Nidal, the mother of al-Mukawama, they called her, the mother of the resistance. And she ran on the platform, I killed 3 of my sons, because she had videos of her sons, she dressing them in suicide bombers to go kill Israelis. She said, I already gave up 3 for the cause. I have another 7 to give. That's why she was elected. So that's a democratic election for Hamas. Israel did not put the Palestinians in a prison in Gaza. Hamas put the Palestinians in a prison in Gaza. Gaza could have been turned into Singapore. They had the money. They had more money pouring into the Palestinian territories and still do from all over the world. And what did they do with it? Build a tunnel infrastructure underneath bigger than the subway system in New York instead of helping their people. So those who scream about the occupation, the Palestinians have brought this on themselves again and again and again.
Wow. But do you accept that Palestinians should have the same human rights as the rest of us?
Absolutely. All humans are equal in the eyes of God.
How can they do that? Okay, but here's the thing, Brigitte. But when it comes to this issue of occupation, I was very struck at the start of the response to October the 7th that very quickly Israel was able to turn on or off the tap of energy, the tap of water, the food supply, etc. That is only achievable if you are effectively occupying another country. Otherwise, you're not able to do it. So Israel has had this control over Gaza and the people that live there, which to me does not afford those people the same human rights as Israelis enjoy. It's inarguable, because if they didn't have that control, they couldn't turn on and off the energy or the water supplies.
But why did Israel get to this point? Remember, in 2005, they gave them everything and they said, we are out. The Israelis even fought among themselves because, you know, some people did not want to move
so don't get me
out of
wrong.
Gaza.
I think Hamas squandered all the money they were given, and Hamas has been the enemy of its own people. And when Hamas did what they did on October the 7th, they knew it was immediately sentencing to death thousands of their own people in the process. They knew that, right? So I think Hamas has got to go. I think Netanyahu has to go as well, and his right-wing headbang cabinet members who do speak in a genocidal way. None of this is ever going to lead to peace. But let me ask you, Brigitte, about Loki's claims about October the 7th. He says that there was this Hannibal directive. It's been much speculated. Haaretz says that they found evidence there was. The IDF has never admitted there was a Hannibal directive. But it is possible in the fog of war that day that I guess some of the casualties came because of Israeli fire. We don't know that. But Loki wants people to believe hundreds and hundreds of people who died that day on the Israeli side were killed by Israel.
I don't believe that. That has not proven. And if I have to choose between believing the Hamas talking point, who control the Ministry of Information, and the Israeli IDF, I would believe the IDF, because I have lived in Israel as a Lebanese. At one point, I had a home in Lebanon, a home in Israel, and my boyfriend who lived in the West Bank at that time. And I worked as a journalist. And knowing how the IDF operates and knowing how the Israeli military operates, they operate by rules. They don't invent information like Hamas does. And when you are in the throes of things like what happened on October 7th, a lot of people do not know a lot of the facts that happened on the ground. But we do know one thing, that Hamas committed such atrocities, and we're so proud filming it and showing it, that will give you goosebumps, that a lot of people can get sick, they cannot view it. And I'm shocked that Loki hasn't even viewed the footage. You have to view the footage to understand the monstrosity of the crimes that were committed on that day.
Yeah, I mean, I watched this BBC documentary which had all the footage from the music festival. And honestly, Loki, it was one of the most sickening 2 hours of my entire life.
Have you been on social media for the past year?
Yes, I have.
You have seen a constant stream of mutilated children. You have seen a constant stream of people being lifted up out
which
of
you're very
the rubble.
keen, which you're very,
how can you even bring into the conversation 2 hours of footage in comparison to 12 months and 77 years of this type of treatment?
So because Loki, the reason there's a war in Gaza and the people are suffering in Gaza is because of that October 7th massacre that occurred that you don't condemn and even deny. It's cause and effect. The tight control over the borders of Gaza is because they elected Hamas, which calls for the annihilation of Israel, and have used all their resources to gather rockets and fire them at Israel. The cause now of this destructive war is because Hamas took the hostages and are holding the hostages and vowed to do October 7th again and again. Cause and effect, Loki. You should learn about it.
The point I would make, Brigitte, is this. I do think Loki has a good point about the settlements, right? What is going on the West Bank with this rapid, aggressive expansion of settlements is completely outrageous. It's illegal. It's wrong. It shouldn't be happening. Why is it happening?
Sorry, you cut out. You mean the settlements in the West Bank?
Yeah, the expansion of settlements on the West Bank in the last year has been completely outrageous.
Well, look, there's a radical wing within Israel that wants to expand the settlements. And the settlements is an issue. I agree with you.
You're funded by the same people.
Who are very upset about the settlements.
You're funded by the same organizations.
What does this have to do with the funding with what we're talking about? They are Americans who support the funding of protecting the United States, not Israel. Our work is devoted to protecting the United States. Has nothing to do
They
Let's
fund
get
settlements and they fund
let's
please.
get back to the bigger
Oh,
picture.
please.
So, Brigitte, do you condemn the expansion of the settlements in the last year on the West Bank?
Say that again?
Do you condemn the expansion of the settlements on the West Bank in the past year?
Yes, I do. I think they are going overboard with the settlement.
Okay, good.
I think somebody needs to revisit looking at the settlement and how they
Okay,
are
good.
expanding.
Then that's good. Loki, do you condemn what Hamas did on October the 7th?
I have a question for you.
Well, hang on.
Based on
You
what
stop
you just
asking
said about
questions for a
settlements.
minute.
I'll answer your question in
Okay,
a second.
she's made an admission that she condemns it.
No,
You-
she condemns the expansion of settlements.
Fine. Loki.
And these people also
Okay,
fund
Loki.
her.
At some point, you
But-
are going to.
but
At some
no.
point, Loki, you are going to have to answer some of my questions.
Which I have done.
Okay, do you condemn what Hamas did?
You've already asked me that.
Not directly, you haven't answered.
I will not condemn
Okay.
people based on Israeli
Okay.
military talking
Okay,
points.
good.
But I have a
You
question
don't
for you.
condemn mass
I have
murder.
a question for you.
You don't condemn mass murder.
Obviously, I condemn mass murder.
You won't condemn it by Hamas.
You're talking about a specific political context in which the information
No, I'm
is
talking
not
about
clear
mass murder of people on October the 7th.
by the Israeli military.
You see, it's just absurd.
So
to
I
say
have a
that.
question for you.
I think you
I have a
lose all
question for you.
credibility when you say
I
that.
have a question.
Guys, by the Israeli military. So, like, he's avoiding, and then he's basically saying that the massacre didn't happen. It was the Israeli military that did the massacre, which is just insane because they filmed with GoPros and with cameras themselves going around massacring Israelis on October 7th. We saw them drag bodies and hostages into Gaza, and then like thousands and thousands of people in the Gaza Strip screaming in absolute elation over these dead bodies and these women hostages, the mutilated body of Shani Luke in the back of a pickup truck. Everyone went and beat the body. They spat on the body. And this guy's over there saying like, oh, this never happened. It's all Hannibal Directive, the IDF. It's absolutely disgusting to see that. And regarding the footage, what he said earlier about when she's talking about what happened on October 7th, and he's saying, look at all the horrible images from Gaza, where I said earlier that there's a cause and effect, but it's not just a cause and effect, it's intent, you know? Like, what are you trying to do? What were Hamas and civilians, by the way, who invaded Israel on October 7th, what were they trying to achieve? What were they trying to do? Did they have some military operational goal? Were they trying to, like, take land inside Israel and hold it? Were they trying to dismantle, like, some military capability of Israel? Or were any of these things, like any, what we usually consider normal military objectives in this attack? No, there was no such thing. The only reason there were any military casualties on the Israeli side in this attack was because the military were standing in the way between Gaza and the Israeli civilians on the Gaza border. So in order to complete their objective, and this was their goal and their objective, which was to massacre and kidnap as many Israeli civilians as possible, in order to do that, they had to go through the military first. They had to get rid of the military that was standing in the way, which they successfully did with a surprise attack that was sophisticated. That's true, using drones, breaking through the fence, catching Israel off guard on a holiday. They did that, and then they proceeded to achieve their goals, which was to massacre people and kidnap people, as the videos show, the videos which the idiot there didn't even bother to watch. Israel is trying to defeat Hamas, the internationally recognized terrorist organization, fundamentalist organization with roots in the Muslim Brotherhood that are banned in all the surrounding Arab countries because they're so radical. Defeat them, bring back the hostages, and see that Hamas doesn't retake power in Gaza and return to the same thing as was before. And Israel is a lot more powerful, so yeah, you're going to have more civilian casualties in Gaza. But this comparison, constantly this comparison of videos, and you see the videos, of going up to a person and murdering that person in cold blood at point-blank range is the same as someone who dies in an explosion in a war because nearby there are Hamas fighters, where you have those different goals that you're trying to achieve, is something that is very, very important. The difference in goals and in intent between the two sides couldn't be any starker, and we have a very, very disingenuous terror supporter over there who's trying to muddy the waters on that issue. But Brigitte Gabriel, what an amazing speaker. And as she said, she's been in Israel. She knows the society. She knows the IDF. She's not like a lot of the mainstream media who, when something happens, they say the IDF says, Israel says, right? They have to qualify because Israel is this great, like, liar propagandist. But then when Hamas puts out information, they just put it out as fact. They don't say Hamas says. So they literally treat Israel and the military with more disdain. And yeah, you should be skeptical of what Israel says, of course. Any media, you should always try to verify, but it's not equal. They're very skeptical of Israel and the IDF, and then they just take what Hamas or the Hamas Health Ministry says for granted. But Brigitte Gabriel, she knows better because she grew up in Lebanon, and she knows exactly what she's up against. All right, guys, Insightful Nomad, don't forget to like, subscribe. Please watch my vlogs from the neighboring Arab and Muslim countries around Israel, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and others. I think you'll really, really enjoy them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.